Okay, so we are here at the final step of the information processing model. We are at the retrieval stage, and we're also tying in the forgetting aspect to that as well. So we will be talking about methods in which your brain retrieves things, and also issues that run into, um, you run into when you're trying to remember things. All right, so retrieval. We have two retrieval is just pulling that information out from storage. You have learned the thing, you understand it, you comprehend it, you've stored it away, and now you are trying to pull that thing out. So we have two basic types of retrieval. We have recall and we have recognition. Think of this as test questions. In order to recall information, it is well stored, it is well understood and much easier to retrieve, which is it's something that you just know better of. So think of like a short answer question. You need to know your stuff if you're going to answer a short answer, or if you're going to write an FRQ. You need to know what is going on, and that is, you have no prompts, you have no help. This is just something that you really know. What's your birthday? That's recall. You don't need any prompts. You don't need any like reminders of like, oh, how old, what your birthday is. You know that thing. So recognition is basically your ability to retrieve that information needs a little bit of help. So think of like multiple choice answers where you're looking through and you're just like, I think it's this. Okay, but it's definitely not that. It's definitely not that. Okay, here's the keyword I was looking for. This is what's going on. So in retrieval, we have two types: recall and recognition. Okay, so Hermann Ebbinghaus is a wonderful addition to this idea of memory and retrieval. And specifically, Hermann Ebbinghaus was interested in forgetting. How is it that we forget information? And so, what he did is he created what we know as the forgetting curve. So, this is Ebbinghaus's forgetting curve, and it it is a thing that you don't need to know the specifics of it, but you need to know the idea of what is going on. And the idea is this. And well, let me tell you what Ebbinghaus would do. Is Ebbinghaus would create tests that were simple, but they were things that were not normal, like things to know. These like memorization tests that isn't something that people with prior knowledge would normally have. And so what he would do is he would give these people tests and then test them multiple times after that original test. So lots of tests happening. But basically what you're going to see is your y-axis here. Your y-axis is the percentage that the person remembered, and your x-axis is how much time has elapsed. So what Ebbinghaus found, obviously, right after the person took the test, they did really well. But very soon after taking that test, a lot of the information disappeared. And what you need to recognize is how much information you lose in a very short period of time. Within an hour, you lose more than 50% of the information. And so think about your classes. How often have you been in a class and your friend asks you about, hey, what happened or what was going on? And you're just like, oh, I can't remember. So that goes with the one day. After one day, you're only holding on to 33. You've lost 67% of the information that you learned in the day prior. And all this is showing for Ebbinghaus is how much information you lose. This is why I want you to do second summaries. This helps you going over the thing again, helps you retain that information. Now, what you'll see is after that first day, you see that the information tails off. it is much less, you lose much less information. So after day 1, you retain 33%, but after day 31, you're still retaining 21%. You're after a full month, you're only dropping 12%. Now, obviously, this is on average. This isn't everyone and whatnot, but this is giving you an idea of what happens to information. This info is now in long-term storage. So when we are retrieving information, what can often happen, and what we did in our little example earlier in the first video, is that our memory is not as solid as we would like it to be. Oftentimes, our memory can be influenced. So Elizabeth Loftus is a psychologist who specifically worked on um, the idea of reconstructive memory. And she did several tests. I'll talk to you about her first test, and then I'll show you how she applied it. So what she did, and you can watch some of these videos online. But basically, what Elizabeth Loftus did was she showed participants a video of two cars colliding together, and she would show a number of people together, and then she would give to them um, a questionnaire, asking questions about the collision that they just saw. And the words or the verbiage used in that questionnaire was different. You had two groups. So one group was asked questions like, how fast were the two cars traveling when they crashed? The other group got the question, how fast were the two cars going when they smashed into each other? And what she found is that even though people saw the exact same video, she could influence how um, how fast the participants believed the cars were going, simply by plugging in different words. And so what is going to happen is participants who heard or read, or the question was asking, the two cars smashed into each other, generally, on average, rated the cars going faster. They also said that they saw glass on the floor, or on the street after the crash, and all of that. And the simple word change influenced how they remembered the incident. So Elizabeth Loftus took this into eyewitness testimony. And this is just one of those things you just need to know about Elizabeth Loftus. You just need to know about eyewitness testimony. There's no specific thing. But if you are in a trial and you have an eyewitness to the crime, generally speaking, you've got what you need. You have the person that saw what happened. You're going to win this trial. So what Elizabeth Loftus is going to show, and she did a number of studies on this, is that eyewitness testimony is not as accurate as we would have liked it to be. Eyewitness testimony is actually really inaccurate. And oftentimes this can be influenced not only by the way that the questions are asked by the lawyers, but by how the person was emotionally, um, you know, geared during that time, how amped up or ramped up or afraid they were at the time of the crime. And her study has helped free a number of people from jail, and has really changed quite a bit how eyewitness testimony is looked in court cases, as it doesn't matter that a person is like 100% sure. No, I saw this. A person's vehemence or a person's assuredness on how accurate they are has nothing to do with the actual accuracy of that person's memory. So once again, just remember Elizabeth Loftus. She's tied to reconstructive memory dealing specifically with eyewitness testimony. And eyewitness testimony is not as accurate as we'd like it to be. Okay, so just piggybacking on Elizabeth Loftus, the role of emotion, just recognize that role of emotion influences the way that you remember things. This is what we call state-dependent memory. Uh, Basically, when you are attempting to retrieve something, your emotional state is going to influence that thing. Think about when you are talking about a trip that you had. If you're in a really good mood, you're going to really highlight the good stuff that happened. If you're in a bad mood, you're more likely to remember the things that didn't go well on the trip, or the bad aspects of something that is either neutral or could be seen as good or bad. So the reason why I have a picture of bubblegum on here is this is a bit of an extreme example, but you could use this if you uh, in college if you choose. Basically, what you do is you pick different flavors of gum, and during a specific class, so you have like history class, you have science class, whatever, you chew a different flavor of gum. So every time you go to U.S. history, you're you know chewing on juicy fruit. Every time you go to science, you are chewing on, spearmint or whatever. And so, it's just an extra, like, it's like sitting in the same seat. You want to sit in the same seats, and, you're just in the right frame of mind. So then when you're taking the test, you're chewing that gum, and it helps you remember. What you're doing. So that's state dependent memory. The state, your emotional state when you retrieve something, is going to heavily influence the memory that is formed. Okay, so what is forgetting? So we've got some theories on why we forget or what this process looks like. We already talked a little bit about Ebbinghaus, but now we're saying, okay, Ebbinghaus, why is it that we forget? Why is it that we have that actual curve? So we have some theories on that. The first theory is super simple, the decay theory. This is super obvious what happens when things decay. They die over time. And this happens to our memories. Our memories, after a long period of time, after not being accessed, after not being used, oftentimes fade away. You have a really good story that for a week was hilarious. You tell all your friends, they thought it was awesome. But then, after a month or so, it's it's not relevant anymore, and you don't tell it, and then 2 years later you don't remember any of it, and that's just over time things fade away. Okay, so interference theory is talking about, hey, the reason why we cannot remember something is because something else gets in the way. There's some sort of, as it says, interference. So we have two types of interference. We have proactive and we have retroactive. So as it says, proactive, the tendency of previously learned material to hinder subsequent learning, to hinder new learning. So let's say that you are in a foreign language class, Spanish. Okay. Now, the way that Spanish is structured is different from English. So in English, the adjective comes before the noun. The hairy dog. Okay. In Spanish, it's not that way. And so for people who are trying to learn a new language, oftentimes old rules for their language are going to get into the way of their new learning. And so you would call this proactive interference, the tendency of previous learned material, my old knowledge of English and how it works, is going to interfere with my new learning. Okay, so next you have retroactive interference, and so this is the tendency of later learning to something new that you learned to interfere with something that you knew a long time before. Um, and so this is picking up a new trick and then trying to go back to an old one. So I I used to own a I still own a PlayStation 2, and there's certain like button configuration where like the it's like X and then square and then circle and then triangle. Like these are the buttons that you press in order to do things. And so when I got my Wii U or whatever, like the button configuration was all different. It was over, like X was here and triangle was over here or whatever. And so when I am trying to do things, I've learned this new set where, and I think Y is up here or whatever, and this is A. I know it's weird, but this new button configuration that I've learned because I've been playing this for a little bit, and then when I go back to this old configuration, I'm like, wait, what? How do I do this again? And so I have difficulty playing those old video games because of the new stuff that I've learned. Another example might be that let's say that okay, so back in the day when I was in elementary school, I learned how to write in cursive. Okay, now the way that cursive is, it's a little bit different um, from print or whatever, and so I learned how to write in cursive. Look at this, it's still got it, Okay, I think that's okay. But basically, now that I've learned how to write in print, my ability, like, this doesn't come, like, me writing this takes me a little bit. Like, I don't even remember how to write a Z or whatever. I know a Z is not like the normal print. I know you have to do something fancy. You don't do this. That's not a Z. There's some other way to do it, and I just don't remember. My new learning, the things that I have learned that is new, okay, new learning is interfering with my previous learning, so I can't do that. I can't do it as well anymore. Okay, so last one is repression theory, and this is coming from my boy Siggy Freud, and we'll keep this pretty tight. Next unit or next chapter, we will talk a lot about Sigmund Freud, and we'll actually come back and talk about repression theory as well. So all I want to say here is this is something that you guys have heard of before. What is repression? Repression is you have something traumatic happen to you, and so you take that thing and you bury it into your unconscious mind. And we'll talk more about this in our next unit. But remember, the unconscious mind, it is something that is unseen, something that you can't access. Um, it is primal, and it is who we truly are. So we take these things that we can't handle, a loved one dying, something like that, and we bury it down in our unconscious mind so that we can no longer remember it. People who've had traumatic events will say, "Oh, I can't remember the details because I've repressed it," or something like that. This is highly controversial. We will talk about controversy when we talk about Sigmund Freud in the next unit, and how not everyone believes everything that he says. Okay, so that is retrieval and forgetting, and that concludes the memory section of our cognition unit. Good work, guys.